Thank you for being on the show today, Rocky. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Great. So I'm going to jump in and we'll just start from the beginning because it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. What was it that led you to become a dental hygienist?
It's actually kind of a funny story.
Okay.
I was in the military prior. And when I was stationed in Baghdad, Iraq, on our volunteer time, I volunteered with a dental medical team. And I started to help out the dentist there. And I was like, this is interesting. I like this. This is actually helping people instead of, what I did in the military. I was like a military cop, and that wasn't the path I didn't want to go down, now being around the war and understanding. I said I wanted to help people.
Right.
So while I was stationed there, I looked into school and I was like, oh, I can be a dental hygienist. That's helping people get healthier mouths and preventing them from disease. That's perfect. Let's do this. So, and that's what I did.
And you did that right when you came out of the military?
So I didn't get out of the military until 2011. But I got into school, like I got back from Baghdad in 2006. And then I got signed up into college in 2007 and then got into the program and did all that. So, yep.
Nice. So then what was it that caused you to switch from, the traditional role of dental hygienist into a more holistic nutritionist realm, area, facet?
Well, I'd always been earthy, crunchy. So, I always like to think outside the box.
Right.
The military, people knew that I didn't like to do certain things because I didn't want toxins, or I just always wanted to do things differently because I'm like, well, if this is happening this way, I don't want that to happen. So let's do it like our ancestors did. I don't know. I've always thought like that. So then when I was in the modern day dentistry, I started to notice my perio patients, along with family members, that would have really good hygiene. They brush, they floss, they come in every 3 months. We reevaluate. Sometimes we would have to get deep cleanings, which is scaling and root planing. And I noticed they were still coming back and didn't understand why they were still having trouble honing in on this gum disease. And I'm like, there has to be more of a root cause than just what we're doing. We're literally just putting a Band-Aid on something that's probably more systemic than what's actually going on. So that made me think, and like I said, I had family members and I know their home care because I lived with one of them, which was my mother. I knew her home care. But what I started to realize is, wait a minute, maybe it's not just their home care. There's another component that's a very big component that isn't talked about, and that's nutrition. And that's when I started to really do my own research and understand, oh my gosh, these are just exposed bone, talking about teeth.
Right.
And if the exposed bone in our mouths aren't healthy, then of course, how is the rest of the body going to be healthy if we can't keep that exposed bone? So then I got into, in 2020, I went back to school and became a nutritional therapist.
All right. Then that makes complete sense. And that kind of ties into why we're here, because I'm sure people that are tuning in are like, why are we talking about this? This is not Airway. This is not sleep apnea. But it is. Hold on. It's all connected.
It is. It's all connected.
It is. It is. So let's dig into this now. Now we're, we've set the tone. So now let's really get into how oral health is connected to our gut health, which is connected to everything else. So, how does it all relate?
Well, we're not walking heads. So we have a whole body attached. And I think in society, we run around with dragging our bodies, right? Everywhere we go. Um, and even in modern day dentistry, which I love what I do, I love being a dental hygienist, but we seem to sever the neck down.
Right.
And don't really correlate that there is a body attached to that mouth. And I even tell my clients, your number one nutrition that we always should be getting is oxygen. That's the number one key nutrition that you need. That's the one thing that's going to keep you alive. And if that airway is blocked, or if you're not breathing correctly, like your body needs you to, then of course, everything else is going to fall apart.
Right.
So, how is the oral health connected to the gut? It's everything. That is your second brain. And honestly, I like to call it the first brain, because it even tells your brain what to do if you don't have everything in balance. If you have everything in balance, then of course your brain is one, and then your stomach. But honestly, if your gut's in balance, that's what's telling your moods, the way you sleep, your energy levels, the way your body functions, and tells your brain this is what's going to be happening, because everything's all out of whack.
So how does what we eat, obviously specifically I'm looking for, how does what we eat impact not just our gut, but, our sleep? Obviously our moods, I think we all know sugar, got that one. But, what are some of the other ways?
So other ways that sleep, sorry, you broke up a little bit. So I apologize.
Sorry, that's all right. That the food, what we eat, can impact our sleep.
Yeah, it has everything to do with it, because your number one goal your body wants to do is maintain blood sugar, right? So like you said, if it's spiking all over the place, if it always has to maintain your blood sugar, it's not going to make sure that, you're sleeping properly. It's not going to make sure your adrenals are functioning properly, which the adrenals literally secrete hormones that make sure everything is kind of regulated, and your moods. And then it's everything's going to become second. It's going to be second nature. It's not going to be first nature. So your foods definitely impact everything you do. From eating processed foods to eating something from the earth. It just depends on what you're gravitating towards. And if you're gravitating towards more of the processed stuff, you're going to see a decline in your sleep, in your blood sugar levels, in your energy levels, to all the major organs, because your body or your gut can't process that and take the nutritionally dense foods that you're supposed to have and absorb them. They're just going to flush them out, or they're going to absorb them and they're going to keep them, as toxin actually. And that'll accumulate and again, get you off balance, and not be stable like the body wants you to, because the body always just wants to be balanced.
Right. The homeostasis.
Yeah. Right? Homeostasis from your mouth to your gut to everything.
Yeah. So kind of to that though, you're not just talking the dreaded Happy Meal processed food. I mean, there are other things, and I know this as a mom because I've gone through this list and gone, oh, because we've all done it. But it's everyday things. Here, have a juice pouch, have a thing of crackers. I mean, there's these little things that we're giving our kids every day thinking, no, it's healthy. It's okay. It's a juice pouch.
Yes. Actually, that's just liquid candy, honestly.
Yeah, just sugar.
It's just pure sugar, processed sugar. I'd rather see a kid eat an apple than have, those liquid pouches. Even those veggie pouches, they are good. They're better than that, but still, it's still the way that they're processed. It's like liquid candy. So it's the same thing. And you got to be really careful as a parent, because I'm guilty of it too, thinking, oh, this is healthy, but you got to think of it in a long-term effect. Like, what does it do to their blood sugar? How does this actually get processed, from their teeth to their mouth down to their stomach, and are they able to, let that funnel out properly? Does it back them up? Because that's a big thing too. If a child's backed up, they're not going to sleep properly. They're going to toss and turn. And then it's going to cause all issues like ADHD or just very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very hyper,
right. Hyperactivity.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it definitely, takes away their childhood, with just something simple as having an apple instead of a juice pack. Here and there, that's fine. Like you said, a happy meal here and there, that's fine. I give my kids happy meals too, just because I'm a holistic nutritionist, but, do I do it every week? No. So,
And it's about balance. And this is I guess for this episode, this will be the time where I insert, because I do it every episode. Let's just hang that mom guilt up over here on the side, because you don't know what you don't know. We're all doing the best we can. That's why we're sharing this information. So
exactly.
It's all good. So you mentioned that some of the foods, even the good ones, your body kind of hoards and it can turn into toxins.
Yes.
Can you explain that a little bit?
So everybody's bio-individual. So that just means that every person has their own individual way of processing foods that we eat on a daily basis. Everybody thinks an apple's healthy, but it might not be healthy for you, Rebecca, but it's healthy for me because I know when I chew it thoroughly, do the 20, 30 bites, then you swallow it. I know my stomach's going to process it and it's going to go where it needs to. But if I'm not going to the bathroom or funneling, I like to call it funneling. I talk about stool a lot with my clients.
I love that, funneling. I've never heard that. Oh, I'm so using that.
Oh, take it.
Funneling.
If you're funneling properly, like apples, I can't funnel. They back me up, so I can't have them. And it's trial by error, but just watch your children, watch yourself and say, I know I can't process that. So don't have it every day. So if they can process that or funnel that, then that food is good for them. So, like we're even talking about McDonald's, and I joke around, if you can process McDonald's, and I'm talking like there's a stool chart, and 1 goes to little pellets is number 1. And then 7 is like liquid, right? We want an individual between 3 and 4, right?
Okay.
And that's usually like a sausage shape.
Soft and solid.
Soft and solid. And you should have no problems going to the bathroom. But if it's like that and you're having McDonald's, then I would say, okay, you can process that. I don't know how much nutrients you're getting out of that McDonald's food, but at least you can process that. You're not bloating, you're not burping, you don't have gas. Those are signs and symptoms that your body can't process that food. If you don't have any of that, by all means, have the happy meal. I'm not going to judge you if you can process that. But if you're having bloating, gas, burping, you have to run to the bathroom or you don't go to the bathroom for a couple of days, I would be more mindful of that because, like I said, your body will hoard that as toxins. And when your body starts to hold on to those toxins, then your body's not going to properly balance like it is. And it's going to overaccumulate with bacteria, fungus, more toxins, parasites. You have the whole gamma. So,
and it's these toxins and parasites that are causing or can cause a lot of the oral health problems.
Yes. And I was just going to link that because most people, and I don't like hounding on modern dentistry, but modern dentistry, what I've been taught is that, grinding and clenching is because you're stressed. No, it's not. It's parasites. So yes. Postnasal drip, parasites. So, I had postnasal drip, back in, my whole adult life, honestly. And I thought it was because I'm from California and I moved to Massachusetts and I'm like, oh, it's damper here. It's just how it is. And I've always had postnasal drip. Then I started taking these supplements. Of course, I've changed my whole diet, like I said, I was earthy crunchy before, but like now I'm in the deep end. Right.
Right.
And I started taking these supplements, and it's amazing what came out of my system. I thought I was pretty healthy. And I'm kid you not, for a year and a half, I have not had postnasal drip.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm an avid grinder too. So, and I used to blame it on the military, right? And being overseas.
Right.
But I don't grind. And I don't have postnasal drip. It's amazing.
That
So,
is amazing. That is
yeah,
wild.
I'm a walking, and I had parasites, and I didn't believe it. Like
Right.
literally, I didn't believe it. And then when I started doing the protocol for it, I was like, this is mind blowing. And all my clients.
This is that oral biome though that we hear people talk about, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep. Oh yeah. Those little suckers get everywhere.
Oh, wow. Wow. And, shout out, by the way, to Massachusetts. It is wicked awesome and has my heart, as they say. So
I saw that on there. Yeah.
I think you moved to a great place. Let me just say.
Yep.
All right. So you kind of touched on a little bit about modern dentistry, and I'll just second it. We're not bagging on that. That's not what we're saying.
No.
But for so long, as with just traditional medicine in general, let's put a Band-Aid on it. Let's treat the symptoms. Why aren't we going for, I mean, we have this knowledge, it's out there, and there's people like you out there practicing it, sharing it. Why are we still Band-Aiding things? Why is this happening?
I think a lot of people are starting to wake up, honestly, like listening to this, your podcast, and understanding that, wait a minute, there's more to the story, or more than we see. I think it's definitely stirring people, but they still tend to do it in their own way because that's what they know. But people are starting to question, because, and not dogging on even modern day medicine, but they're starting to question doctors. Like, wait a minute. So if I have to take this pill, what does this lead to? Why can't I just do this and that instead of taking just this pill? If I take this pill, then I'm going to have to take this pill and then this pill, and then it just leads. So they're starting to question. I've definitely noticed, and even in dentistry, they're starting to question, like, well, if I have to get scaling and root planing done, I'm going to have to do this the rest of my life for 3 months, right? I can't get bone back. And they're like, yep, there's nothing you can do. And it kills me, because I'm like, no, there is things and people are starting to say, oh, my body can heal itself. And I think that's what people need to understand. Even with Airway, you can heal yourself 100% and have your airway expand, even in, I don't know the research and I don't want to quote it, but it can be less than, a couple of years, right? Somebody that has blocked airway, they can see a big, what's the word? Comeback. Yeah. An improvement than when they used to, or how they used to breathe. It's incredible what the body can do once you start understanding, or being aware of what you need to correct to do it. It's just because we've been taught a certain way, and we're like, oh, this is the way. Like, people think, oh, I've been breathing my whole life, I know how to breathe.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
No, we don't.
Nope. And I'm one of those people. I wasn't a mouth breather, but after talking to Patrick McEwen, I was like, oh, I'm doing it all wrong. Oh, and I have spent months practicing the breathing and making sure my tongue is all the way up and
humming. Yeah. And humming is huge. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yep. No, nobody does. And that's
yeah, we're starting to, like,
yes.
So as we're talking about things like Airway, specifically, what are some of the things that we could do to help it? I mean, obviously, I know for some people, inflammation can impact it, right? Because it's gonna tighten things. I mean, I'm not talking about the high arch palates here. I'm talking about some of the other things that I know we can control. As a mom, and you're looking at your child that has, like you said, the constant runny nose, maybe, or severe allergies, and which translates into sleeping issues. what are some, where can you start as a mom? What are some of the foods I'm supposed to look at it maybe from inflammation or something else?
I always, and I don't want to dog on it, but I always look at dairy first. Our dairy
Yeah,
in
that one
this
hurts.
country, yeah, our dairy in
Yeah.
this country has been turned upside down.
Yeah.
It's not the dairy that your great great grandmother grew up on. And I see signs and it kills me, and it's like, drink your milk. I'm like, no, don't do that. Because it literally will fill your system with pus. It's like
Mm.
crazy toxins.
What about like almond milk or coconut milk or things like that?
So that's the alternative, and those are great. I personally use almond milk. I love coconut milk too to make certain dishes, but I always tell my clients and anybody, read the ingredients. If you can't pronounce the name and you can't actually make it in your kitchen, do not use it, because
Mm.
that means your body can't process it.
Oh, I
It
like that.
usually means it's man-made. And stuff that's man-made, your body can't process. Even like we talked about McDonald's and stuff like that, your body, it's nutritionally not dense food. Your body can't absorb it. So over time, if you're not having that dense food, your body's just going to break down. If you're giving it the dense food that it needs, your body will actually thrive and won't survive. It'll actually thrive and heal itself, and you'll see it over and over again. But with that being said, dairy is the number one thing I always go to. Most
Okay.
people that have, especially children, I've noticed they, when they have really high dairy in their system, they usually have allergies, asthma, upper respiratory, and skin conditions. That's what I've noticed.
Skin condition. Okay.
Like
That one I haven't heard. Like eczema or
eczema. Yeah.
really?
Yep. Or that like chicken skin that the kids
Mm-hmm.
get. Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Wow. So
yeah.
start with dairy.
Yep. Yep. And if you're gonna have dairy, raw, because we still need dairy.
What do
I'm
you
not
mean
saying
raw?
raw. So raw milk, raw cheese, you get it from your local farmers. Another thing,
Oh.
being a holistic, nutritionist, I say you need to know your community, and that means the farmers in your community. Once you get to know the farmers, you get to know how they feed them, how they're raising them, and where you can pick up, your meats, your vegetables, your fruits, and your milk. Just like what your great great grandmother did. She didn't go to Costco or, I don't know what stores you have, but
Right.
she didn't go to the store to get stuff, and they got it from the backyard, and then they got it from their farmers.
Yeah.
You
No
want
stop and shop.
no, exactly, no stop and shop. Exactly. Because another thing that people forget is when you literally eat from where you live, you're
Mhm.
getting the microorganisms that your body needs. You're not getting them from Mexico. You're not getting them from Texas. You're not getting them from Canada. That's where some of our food is from, or, California. I live in Massachusetts. How is that going to help my microbiome if I live in Massachusetts, if I'm eating, blueberries from California? They
That's a
have,
good point.
yeah, they have different microorganisms than they do down the street where I should be eating. Just like you should have the
Right.
raw honey in your town, because that helps with all the allergies that you have, because those bees pollinate from these.
I was about to say it's the bee thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I've always heard get your honey from wherever you live and you take a tablespoon of it a day and it'll help with your allergies.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. It's the
Oh,
same concept.
I did not realize that it translated to everything.
Yep. It translates to everything from your meats to your vegetables to your fruits to your dairy. So get to know your local farmers. And that keeps them in business, of course, too. But,
Sure.
it's kind of a share and take thing, they share with you, you take, and then you're helping them. It's very important, and it's key, especially from oral to gut. All
I
the way around.
suddenly feel like going to my farmer's market this weekend.
Please do. They'll appreciate it, and it'll be good for you.
Yeah, I'm horrible. I never go.
Yeah.
So, and again, you kind of touched on it. You're making this very easy for me. Because how can this holistic nutrition then actually heal something like gum disease? Because even kids have it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I see gingivitis all the time. Like it's crazy. Even in young kids' mouths, but, it's inflammation. That's all it is.
Okay.
And so your mouth is literally just like your body talks to you, your mouth can talk to you. Your teeth can tell you what's going on. And in like Chinese medicine, they, each tooth is connected to, a system. So, or like, your wisdom teeth are connected to your heart. What do we do in this country? We extract wisdom.
Take them out.
And then what's the number one killer in America?
Heart disease. Wow.
So your teeth tell stories, and your gums do too. And when they're inflamed, that means that your bacteria in your gut is inflamed too. So what we got to do is cut down on that inflammation. We have to get nitty gritty and see what you're eating, what's causing that inflammation, going right back to that foundation. What can you digest? And like I said, the first thing I do is pretty much dairy. And then of course, gluten, because the gluten here in the States is totally different than in other countries. I've had clients, come with me on a protocol and then they go to Spain or Europe and they're like, it's like I was healed. But their restrictions for food is totally different than ours. We have such a low standard and they have a higher standard. It's incredible.
Just night and day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's so clear. It's just,
wow,
crazy. It's sad. It really, really is. I feel like we're in a war.
Yeah.
with food.
Well, yeah. And as a carb addict, I'll admit it. That's kind of that's a hard one.
Oh yeah. I love my carbs too. No, it's a good thing. It's just, I would be mindful of like, where's that carb coming from? That's where, is it from the ground? If it's from the ground, go at it, but if it's processed, that's where I'd be a little, because there's higher sugar. Your body's trying to maintain balance, right? With your glucose. Right. If you're eating a ton of sugar, it's doing that roller coaster thing and it's hard to keep up with.
So in this case, comparing something like, I'm a baker. So comparing something like, your regular bread flour to like an almond flour or a potato flour, is it better to go this way? Or are they just as bad because they're processed and they, that's how they got into my kitchen?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because like I said, our flour in the States is different than the flour that you would get in France, right?
Okay.
It's just how we process it, and how we get it into that bag. I would lean more towards the almond and like potato or cassava flour or any of that, because it's lower glycemic index than the standard wheat flour, because that'll spike it right up. And what gluten does is it mimics your T3 cells or the proteins in your thyroid. So that's why a lot of people that have Hashimoto's can't have gluten, because it literally is mimicking those T cells or the protein in your thyroid. So it overaccumulates, and then that's why their thyroid gland is so off or off balance. So that's why people can't have gluten. So you're kind of mindful of that.
So then as a mom, I mean, okay, now we've established farmers market, good, Stop and Shop, selective, got it. What about some of the more holistic stores? I mean, not to name drop here, but we're talking like Whole Foods or Fresh Time or whatever you've got in your area. What about these kind of places?
So especially living in Massachusetts, it gets cold here. So yeah, I definitely, Trader Joe's and like Whole Foods, and then I get frozen, even though they're coming from California or Mexico or Florida or whatever. And I freeze them. And I have to use them in the winter time. I don't, have pineapple in the middle of January because that's not seasonal.
Right.
And it's not going to help anything internally because my body's not accustomed to that. If I lived in Hawaii all year round, of course I could have a pineapple and my body would love that. I think we have an overabundance of we can get whatever we want when we want it. You got to think primal. So back even, 100, 200 years, you couldn't find a pineapple in the middle of Massachusetts,
Right.
in the middle of winter. It's going to be more squash, potatoes, that kind of thing, corn. And that's what they ate accumulation of in the wintertime. So I kind of, my comfort foods, which are, potatoes and sweet potatoes and all of that. So I have more of those in the wintertime and then less, the summery foods like the blueberries, the strawberries. And my kids love that stuff in the summertime. Not to say that we don't have those in the wintertime because I have frozen, strawberries and blueberries, but we don't go as much as
Right.
we,
Right. You limit it. So I like your explanation of thinking primal too. It makes it, to me, that's easier than seasonal because seasonal is kind of, especially with everything all mess. I mean, living up north, it snows in May. So seasonal does not help me. So but I like primal. I like that and stick more with farmers. I like that.
Yep.
All right. So why then? Well, I mean, I guess I kind of already know this. Going back to the basics of nutrients, this nutrient dense food. How do we do this basically to jumpstart our health and our kids, right? So you want to get them now while they're young. Let's set the precedent and give them the optimal health span because that's really what we're trying to do. How do we do this?
You want to incorporate them in the kitchen. You want them to help out with dinner, with breakfast. And I know we're always on the go. I get it. Us moms are always just like, we got to do this, this, and this, and this. But I think we need to slow down. Our kids are very present. We're not very present sometimes as moms. And it's so easy just to be like, no, I'm going to get this done. It's going to be done in 30 minutes and then dinner's on the table. But if we actually incorporate our children, they see how we're making the food and it's very basic. Like I was telling you, primal stuff is very basic. It doesn't have to be this fancy thing. It's just like one of the favorite things that my kids like to make with me is shepherd's pie. And that's something that we have in the wintertime. Now, mind you, it's not an actual pie. I use potatoes, but it's very basic. And we do mashed potatoes on top with vegetables on bottom. I even sneak in like Brussels sprouts. They don't know. They still eat it. So, and I incorporate, they do the potatoes with me and they cut them and then they put them in. Getting our kids invested in how to prepare foods. I think as a society, we've moved away from that because we want everything on the go and we don't do that anymore. So that really shows our kids like, oh, mom's doing this. So I should be doing this too, to make my body healthy. They actually can value that growing up so that they start doing it with their kids. And like that can be passed down because generationally, I think we've missed that.
I think you're right. I have such amazing memories of my grandmother and cooking with her and my great grandmother and just the smells and just, yeah. But you're right. We're too busy. How are you going to do it? We don't have time. Oh, it's 6 already. Let's just go pick something up.
Yeah. And that doesn't help. So you've heard of the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic, right? So the sympathetic is your stress and survival mode. And then the parasympathetic is relax and digest. And for kids, and us adults, like I said, we don't relax enough anymore. We're always going. And that's, the fight and flight, or the survive and go. And when we're about to eat, if you're not in that parasympathetic state, you're not going to digest anything. So even though you do the 20 bites and you swallow, you're still on the go and your body hasn't adjusted yet. So when you're preparing foods, you're actually going into that parasympathetic state and you're not in the sympathetic, the stress state or the go state. You're in the digest and relax state.
Okay.
So that's why preparing, it literally starts, of course, in your brain, but then it gets your saliva going because you can, like you were saying about your grandmother's smells, you can smell it. It gets your saliva going. So it's flowing and you're like, oh, that's going to smell so good. And then you start thinking about that and you start savoring and then it gets the esophagus going and then your stomach starts to turn and it is getting ready to eat. When you're like, oh my gosh, it's 6:00 and you're going to, McDonald's, it's not preparing you. Right. You're still in that go. Your saliva hasn't gone, you haven't started to think about it and you're not relaxing in it and your body's not ready for processing because it thinks you're in survival mode. So it shuts down everything. So
it just pushes the food through. It's not really...
and you have no nutritional value in that at all.
Aces. That's awesome. So, okay. So let's kind of shift gears then and think, as a parent, you're going to have soccer practice and baseball practice and rugby and whatever else. So what are some things we can do to prepare? I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about, all right, what if I dehydrated apples? There's a great snack. Let's throw it and go. I mean, it doesn't make a difference if we do things like that. If you want to give them the occasional cookie or something after school, something sweet. What if I make it at home versus buying it in the store? I mean, are these kind of changes, will they make enough of an impact? Is a great place to start? Is it just, if you're not doing everything, it doesn't work?
No, I think you just hit something big. Yes. So it does. It makes a huge impact from, your kids' moods to how they interact, to how they sleep, to, their whole body developing, to their nervous system. Because if you're giving a cookie that you bought from, I don't know, the local bakery, you don't know what kind of ingredients there are. So there can be chemicals in it. There can be dyes. There can be hydrogenated oils, all of that. And then if you're making the cookie, first of all, you're putting your energy into it. And so you put that love into that cookie, right? They can feel that, just like you smelled your grandmother's cooking. It's the same thing. These are grandma's cookies. Well, these are mom's cookies. And then on top of it, exactly what ingredients are in there. So if it's chocolate chips, which are, just chocolate, sugar, and vanilla extract, and then whatever flour, just basic flour, sugar, butter, that's it. That is much better than what you bought down on the bakery. So doing these little things are huge impact on your kids' growing value from, like I said, from their moods to their nervous system to their oral health. And then we're always drinking a lot of beverages that probably shouldn't go in our bodies. Even I've seen young children drinking Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks.
Don't hit me with my dunks. That one hurts. There's just, you can't take
and that's
my
okay.
dunks.
I'm not saying, because I love my Starbucks, but I'm saying, like, they get these Frappuccinos. Yeah. And if you only knew what was in them.
Or the energy drinks.
Oh, the energy. Oh, right now what they do on because I got kids too, and they love those TikToks that show them about Prime energy drinks. And like, I'm like, what are in these? So just shifting and being like, drink water. Or I know it's not flavored, but drink water. Or if you are going to have some type of energy drink, can you please drink water afterwards, just to rinse your mouth out to get that balance back in? It's a lot of sugar. Honestly, I guess what I'm getting to is there's a lot of sugar that we can't account for. A lot of ingredients have sugar. It's going to spike everything. But if you're making, let's say sandwiches and on the go when you have practices after school, it's much better than picking up McDonald's or pizza, let's say, for that, because you know what's actually in that. And it's easier on your wallet too, because that stuff's starting to add up.
It does. It's good. Happy Meals are just, they're not happy anymore. They're expensive.
They're
It's just sad.
expensive.
It is
Really
sad.
is. It
So,
is.
and I heard something, I think it was yesterday on the news, and it kind of startled me. So I'll bring it up here going into this holiday weekend. Because, they're talking about right now, the East Coast and the North, we're getting hammered with all the smoke from Canada. And they're talking about all the, migraines, summer migraines, and it's making this worse, and our allergies are worse, and blah, 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 blah. And oh, by the way, if you're going to be outside grilling for 4th of July and you're sensitive to smoke, stay away from the hot dogs. And because something's in them. And I thought, okay, first of all, I'm not a big hot dog person anyway, but kids are.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Aside from the fact that it's just hot dogs are gross, I'll just leave it at that. Kids love them. And as a mom, when mine were little, we hot dogged it up.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm hearing, is it titrate? There's something in hot dogs now that.
Yeah. The nitrates.
Nitrates. Okay.
Yep. So it's a preservative, and like additive and preservatives. I mean, they throw anything that they don't want in their factory into hot dogs. So, I mean, I've never been into a hot dog factory. This is what I've been, but literally that's what has been taught to me. Honestly, my kid's father's, it would be his uncle. He passed away when he was 4. And it's because he choked on a hot dog. They thought it was because he choked on a hot dog. Personally, I think it's because he was allergic to the nitrates in the hot dog. So then his airway closed because he had an anaphylactic shock and he passed away. But this was back in like the 60s or the 50s. So when hot dogs were really big, right? So,
right.
And I've heard numerous times that people will choke on hot dogs. And I think it's not because it's too big or it gets trapped in your airway. I think it's the nitrates or the preservatives and the additives that they add in there closes your airway and you get a food allergy, honestly. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's interesting that they're saying stay away from the hot dogs on top of what are you using on that grill? So
right.
Yeah. What's causing it to become alive? And that makes you say, don't eat the hot dogs. That'd be like, why would I eat it if it wasn't grilled? Because you can't eat hot dogs. They say it's safe to eat hot dogs that aren't grilled because they're already, what's the word?
They're basically cooked. Yeah.
Yeah. They're basically cooked. So you can eat them.
So maybe this holiday weekend we prepare our food inside and we just eat outside.
Yeah,
Is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I know that it has been pretty drastic. What's coming down from Canada. I know a lot of people are having a hard time breathing. It definitely has picked up the allergies that everybody's had. And it's funny because this cough, I don't know if you've had other listeners, but they seem to have a dwindling cough that hasn't gone away. So
yeah,
me and my thing would say, or me and my, what I believe in the supplements, but it's just parasites. Honestly, we're so inundated with so many toxins that our body's accumulated that it doesn't know what else to do. And so it shows up in different symptoms now. So like the coughing or having like the postnasal drip, to grinding, to all these different nerve endings too, and people are getting like little zings. So it links back to parasites, or not just parasites. I shouldn't just say that, but any toxins that have accumulated in your body. So, yep.
Flush them out. Water.
On a binder. I always tell people binders. So I don't care what supplement you take, but a binder. And what I mean by binder, it's not like fiber. I'm talking, it's a binder that clears out toxins in your body. So So there's different herbs, like the ones that I use different herbs that will literally, it's like a sponge and it cleans out your, from your oral cavity. Cause I have my patients swish it around in their mouth, especially if they have gum disease. And they swish it around and then you swallow it. And it's literally like taking the scum out of your intestines and then flushing it out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It takes all the, whatever you got, fungus, you know, from radiation to any type of poison or any type of toxin that you have in your body, bacteria. I can't even name, there's so many that you could name, but
Wow.
it takes a lot out of there.
Are these things we could make ourselves, or are these things we would get at the
It's
Whole
up,
Food store?
yeah, you can get them in Amazon. You can get them at, you know, like we were talking Whole Foods. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, you can get them off the internet. So a binder.
A binder. I'll
Yep.
definitely be checking that out.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, so at the end of every episode, I always like to hand the floor back to the guest, and so that you have the final word. And it can be anything you think we didn't cover, anything you would like to emphasize, or just, you know, something you'd like to leave parents with.
I always do like the 1% rule, because like you were saying in the beginning with the guilt,
Yeah.
You got like parents, you're rocking it, like literally rocking it. And just remember, like you are there for your kids 100%. I know it. So don't try to do 120%, just do that 1% and that'll be it. So even if it's, you know, instead of having the cookies from the store and making homemade cookies, that's the 1%. Or, you know, making sure when you check on your kid at night, make sure that their mouth is closed while they're breathing, or while they're sleeping, not breathing, or, you know, making sure that they, you know, can help you cook maybe once a week. Just that 1%. That I love the 1% rule, because I think we're hard on ourselves as parents.
Oh, I think so. I absolutely think so. Thank you
slow
so
it.
much for being on, Rocky. This was amazing information. Thank you so much for sharing.
No, thank you for having me. It was great to be on here.